Hi, it's Ross Patterson here. I'm going to share 2 points concerning Hannah. Remember Hannah, the ordinary person who made a difference. We're sharing this morning we're recording this in a wonderful German Bible school. It's fantastic to see so many Germans passionately in love with Jesus. Europe has hope. Same thing in England and other countries. It's not huge, but as I said in the last session, anything God really wants to do starts with a few and spreads out from there. And I've dealt with 3 things that stood in Hannah's way from making a difference in her world. She loved her husband, but she didn't accept her husband saying, look, just accept my love, don't do what God has really called you to do. Family again, she was constantly abused and taunted and ridiculed by Penina, Elkanah, her husband's other wife. She did not give way to bitterness. And last time I talked of Hophni and Phinehas, these 2 men who were priests of the Lord under Eli, and the rubbish that they were serving up, the sin, as the translation I used last time said, they were scoundrels. Now, 2 more. In 1 Samuel 1, of course, we're dealing with 1 Samuel 1. The 4th battle that you're going to have to face is this one. It says in verse 7, just got to get back there. In verse 7, year after year it was the same. That's a really difficult one. What I'm going to deal with in this short session is 2 battles that we struggle with. Number 1 is year after year it was the same. And the second one is, it seems, at least at that time, that the Lord had closed her womb. So let's deal with the first one. Year after year, it was the same. Penina would taunt Hannah as they went to the tabernacle, and she wouldn't get the good end of it. Elkanah, her husband, loved her, but Penina and her kids would get the best part of it. I don't know about you, but that one's really, really hard, year after year. If there's like a crisis, can remember a number of years ago, we were in Singapore, and there was a time when we lived in Singapore, and our phone rang early in the morning, and we were told our eldest daughter had been in a very serious car crash, and we jumped on a plane and got back home, and well, let me say what happened first. We went out to pray early in the morning in Singapore, and the Lord clearly said, the devil means this for evil, but I'm going to use it. They phoned us and basically were saying she's gone, which in effect she almost was, but God spared it. And as I speak, she's directing films in Hungary at the moment. And that's 10, 12 years later. Now, that kind of thing, where there is a crisis and you seek God and God consoles you, you fly home, okay, she's in ICU, but over the next few days the doctors come in and this one says there's no concussion, this one says there's no spinal damage. Okay, she had a huge tear on her face, but they sewed it up and did a great job. She had been in operation for 4 hours with her liver bleeding, which is very difficult to stop, but God spared her. Now that is hard, that's a shock, but when it's year after year, when you just don't know for year after year, that's not an easy one, is it? And what I want to suggest to you is, you'll give me a second just to flick through to Luke chapter 18. Do you remember that wonderful story that Jesus told? Luke 18:1. One day Jesus told his disciples a story that they should always pray and never give up. Now let me say, if Jesus told a story that they should always pray and never give up, it's because there are times when it's either give up or prayer. And you remember what he said. There was a judge in a certain city. He did not fear God, and he couldn't care less about people. And a widow came to him, give me justice with my enemy. She came repeatedly, again and again. And it says the judge ignored her for a while, but finally he said to himself, I don't fear God and I don't care for people, but this woman is driving me crazy. That's what my translation said. So I'm going to see she gets justice because she's wearing me out with her constant complaints. I could translate that, I've had enough of her. I just want to get rid of her. And the only way to do it is to answer her prayer. So, dear ones, Jesus clearly says there is a place for repeated prayer, even when it seems. Did it strike you that's a very, very daring analogy for Jesus to give? He's talking about God answering prayer, and the parable is a judge who doesn't care for God or people. What I believe the Lord is saying is there are times when it's just really, really discouraging and hard work. It is year after year. And I want to say to you, now in my 70s, there are times when it is year after year. There are times when I know God has called me, but not just today or tomorrow or next week or next month. It doesn't seem to happen. That's very, very hard. That is really hard. And may I encourage you, from this end of experience, stick in. We were in Taiwan for 10 years, 1969 to 79. Went back to China, I went back to the UK, prepared to get into China, and we were 15 years stuck in the UK. It was God. We birthed a church, we planted a church, we did all kinds of exciting things. Worked for the wonderful Overseas Missionary Fellowship in their China ministry, but it was a really difficult period. It was right after coming back from Taiwan, I wondered, how long, Lord? How long? I know you've called me not to be here in England. How long do we have to handle this? And parallel to that, going back to 1 Samuel, and I'm doing both of these in one, is this really, I think, tricky thing that it says in verse 5, although he loved Hannah, he would give her only one portion because the Lord had given her no children. So Peninnah would taunt Hannah and make fun of her because the Lord had kept her from having children. That's a really hard one. I have technically a PhD in theology, though I'm a little bit embarrassed to talk about that, so I won't. But I don't think I'm skillful enough to unpack that one. You see, there are times when the Lord prevents, and that's it. There are times when the Lord prevents for a season. And I would believe that the only way around that is to seek the face of God, because one of two things will happen. One is he'll leave you satisfied in the state you are, and you'll understand why you're in that place. The other is he'll loose you. He'll loose you. He'll withdraw his bar, if you like. That's what happened with Hannah. Now, let me point to two things which I think make a difference in in that area. One is passion. One is passion. How passionate are you for what God has called you to do? If you read Revelation 3 and the Laodicean church, you know God really doesn't like lukewarmness, which is neither hot nor cold. It says, extraordinary, he'd rather have hot or cold than lukewarm. Are you passionate about God's call? You see, when God restricts, when God refuses to open the door for a season, you either get more and more passionate or you walk away from it. You either get passionate or you walk away. Ordinary people say, I know this is what God called. Even if he's standing in my path, I know if I seek him with passion, he'll, I wouldn't say move out the way, he'll lead me down the way to my calling. The other thing is motive. The other thing is motive. Time and restriction purifies motive. It brings us to a place where we say to the Lord, yeah, I want to do it for you, and I want you to have the glory. See, when the Lord obstructs, and when there's a long time happening, one of the things you notice is this, that you get to the place where you say, if this happens, it must be God. Because it's not happening, and unless it couldn't happen unless God steps in and makes it happen. When that happens, God can use you significantly. God can release you into extraordinary events, and here's the reason, because he knows he'll get the glory. how many, in a sense, are used too early and just become proud and lose it? How many others seek the face of God with tears and bitterness, and in God's time he releases, and those people know absolutely what Jesus meant when he said, just say, I'm an unprofitable servant, I've done what you told me to do, because they know it was all of God. And I would want to say the exciting things that God has done. We were just, a couple of us, Brad, actually, Christine and myself, were talking last night. And Brad said somebody came up to him and said, oh, you said this to me and it changed my life. It really made the difference to my missionary career. Brad's problem was he couldn't remember ever saying anything like that to that person. See, that's why God makes us work. That's why God stands in the way. Because the most exciting things we do, he does, not us. If we can get to the place where we know it's God, and we give all the glory to him, where we can step aside from the Christian fanfare and the crowds and the rest of it and say, Jesus, thank you, then it could well be that God is ready to release his next season in our lives. Thanks. Next talk I'm going to go some of the positive things that Hannah did to make a difference. These 5 were things she avoided. The next ones are things she did. So join me in the next session. Thanks.